and greetings from Chicagoland. I'm Munira Zahabi, the niche navigator, and welcome to Munira's Musings. I'm your host, podcaster, author, coach, and international speaker. Each week, I bring you insightful conversations with extraordinary individuals who share their unique perspectives and stories. Join me on this captivating journey as we explore new ideas and inspirations. Now, let's dive into today's episode with our special guest.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira, the niche navigator, coming to you live with another episode of Munira's Musings. How are you, everybody? Welcome. Our guest today is all the way from Colorado, and he helps people with trauma. We do these shows because we want you to know that there are so many things that as entrepreneurs we can do for our business. If you are one of those people standing on the sidelines, we need you to know that there is a way for you to shine because you have a gift within you. And don't stand on the side anymore. Just jump in the pool with us, entrepreneurship pool with us. So without further ado, welcome, Gregory. Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, Munira. Thank you so much for having me on.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I live in Denver, Colorado, and I am a life coach that works with adolescents and families who are going through struggles and challenges and trials. And so my background is working with children who have experienced abuse, neglect, and trauma. And so I help families reconnect with one another. I help children come back to a good place where they can become great adults.
How did this start?
Well, that's a good question. So I grew up and had my own challenging childhood. I was a very sensitive child, and so growing up with that experience, I started kind of wandering around, thinking about what I wanted to do when I grow up. And the high school guidance counselor said to me, "Well, you're really good at talking with people. Maybe you should be a therapist." And I was like, "Okay." And so I went to school. I have a degree in psychology, and I have a life coaching certification. And so my first job outside of college was working with middle schoolers who have trouble in school. And so just after that first job, I just realized that I really enjoy working with children, and I enjoy helping parents kind of navigate the challenging things that can come up in childhood.
That's awesome. So how long have you been a life coach and helping kids?
About 21 years, and I've helped hundreds of families, not just two-parent households. I've helped single-parent households. I've worked with high-conflict divorces, grandparents, adoptive parents, foster parents, and kids all the way from age 4 to up to 22.
So as a licensed counselor, why do you think people need this kind of guidance with you? I mean, there are children out there who cannot afford people like you. So how do you help those people, and how do those people overcome it, or do they just not?
Well, I really think that the family unit is where we learn all of the good things about the world and all of the not so good things about the world. So I know parents' noble intention is to ensure that their children grow up to be the best that they can be. And so we invest, as adults, we invest in things all the time. We invest in good food for our health. We invest in this car because it's safety ratings. We invest in stocks and everything so that we have a future, where we don't have to work until we're 100, right? But parents sometimes struggle with figuring out that investing in themselves with a life coach can actually benefit not just them as a parent, but that also trickles down to the child too. And so, I will do my best to work with anybody, even if they have financial struggles and things like that. Maybe we can figure out a trade of some sort. But my passion, my goal is to change the world through children, because they don't have all the barriers. They have more creativity. They have more imagination. Adults sometimes will be like, well, that's just the way it's always been. But children or teenagers, they are challenging everything, and they're supposed to do that, right? And they're supposed to challenge the status quo, the way things are, and stuff like that. And so I believe that children can change this planet for the better.
I love that. I love that. So you said that there's high high profile divorces, there's single parent childhood, there's just trauma. There could be a family unit who is cohesive, but there is trauma in it.
Yeah.
So how does each child differ? And in these situations, like, is it usually the same mindset, or can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So two children can grow up in the same family, and one can be impacted by trauma, and the other one can be fine or seemingly fine, right? So each child is really unique. And a child can show signs of trauma where maybe they are talkative and now they're not talking, or the parents ask them a question and then they blow up and they start yelling and screaming, things like that, being more secretive and closed off and things like that. And so each child is unique in how they experience life. Some kids can get yelled at and they're okay. Some kids get yelled at and they maybe feel depressed or anxious, things like that. And that's just family life. That doesn't include like social life, school, bullying, social media, things like that. So at each generation, children have struggled with whatever that generation's thing was. And for us, a lot of it is just the very fast pace, high expectations, the social media world and things like that. And so all of these things can play a factor in how a child responds to life and to stress.
You talked about, for us, you talked about social media. This is the trend right now. This is what we are seeing: social media, AI, phones, cell phones.
Yeah.
What was it in 2 decades ago?
Well, 2 decades ago, the internet was still popular, but we had Facebook, I think, at that time, but we didn't have a whole lot of social media platforms. People were having to be more present in life and things like that. And so, I think that social media can be a challenge for children and families, and each family has to decide what works for them. But the Surgeon General of the United States did recently post that social media is a problem in our culture, just because of how much children use it and the way that it shapes their personality, their self-esteem, their ideas about making money in the world, and all kinds of things like that.
So this is a good point, because as coaches, we are told that you have to be out there in the social media.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, any business owner has to have a presence.
Yeah.
Anybody out there who doesn't have a presence is considered out of date, if you will.
Yeah.
So then how do you balance it? Like, the kids of today are better. I mean, I can ask my grandkid and he's going to go into Instagram and post something that's really amazing, take a boring picture of something and then do that. So that's creativity. But then how do you limit? I mean, how you're saying it could create a problem. So where does this become unhealthy?
Well, most children, or adults for that matter, I think, spend up to 32 hours a week. I think that's the last statistic that I heard on social media. So 32 hours is like an entire day and some hours, right? So there are great things that social media has brought, for sure. It has brought a lot of violence, political unrest. It has taken a lot of things that were hidden and brought that into the light, which is really good. And each family has to set a standard of like, okay, you can be on the phone this much, and then when you're done, you're going to put your phone on the kitchen counter, or something to that effect, right? Or sometimes cell phone providers, they will have an app where you can actually turn different phones and tablets on and off so that they all have access or not access to the Wi-Fi. But with adults, and speaking in a kind of an entrepreneurial context, it can be done without social media, but it's a little bit different. There's maybe more in-person networking that has to happen and things like that. But I like to recommend like outsourcing it when you can. That way your eyes and your brain doesn't have to be plugged into social media all day, every day, and things like that and stuff. So
I like this could be a very perfect topic, and we could go all day just talking about this. But let's get back to trauma and social media and helping kids with trauma. And so you specialize, and you specialize in kids. You believe that they are the future of tomorrow, which they are, and they have to be shaped into be great adults to take over the next phase of
yeah,
when we are gone. So I love that. So, but here's the thing: how do you, as one person, try to? You've changed a lot of lives. I understand that. I commend you for that. But how do you, as one person, fight this battle? Do you have other people who believe in this call, if you will? And how is it? How is that taking shape?
yeah. So there are millions of people across the planet that believe that children are the future, right? They literally are the future, not just literally, but metaphorically. They are going to grow up, and if they are nurtured and supported, they may have the courage to be an entrepreneur. They may have the courage to go to medical school or anything that could be challenging, right? And so I truly believe that there are millions of people that are on the planet working towards this goal, but it takes time. And, heroes don't always come with red carpets and trumpets. Sometimes the hero is the grandmother who gets the kids up early because the parents have to work, or the grandmother who watches the children late at night when the parents have not had a date in 6 months. So these are also the heroes of this story, and each one of us does it in our own way. And so whether you're a parent or a grandparent or maybe a mentor, or maybe you at your job you help kids at a recreation center, we are each doing that in our own way, hopefully, and inspiring and instilling good values and healthy self-esteem in children.
Wow. Okay, I like that habit because I'm always constantly babysitting my grandkids, and I do that. So yeah, I feel like a hero right now. But
Yeah.
so what has been if you can talk about it? I know you are bound by HIPAA. You don't have to talk about names. But what has been the most challenging case that you worked with that has really had you in tears?
Yeah. Um, oh goodness. I've worked with several children who were abused by their own family in every way possible. And it's really, really sad to talk with a young child who seems very normal, and they're playing and running around, but they've experienced almost every form of abuse that they could by the people that were supposed to protect them. And that is really disheartening, and it's really sad. But I've worked with both young boys and young girls that were abused in every way possible by their family. Um, and it's a long journey for those children to learn what is appropriate boundaries, what is a safe adult act and look and talk like, right? And to help them work through the trauma of like their primary parents didn't protect them. They not only did not protect them, which is neglect, but they actively harmed them, which is abuse and trauma.
So you said that this is a long journey. In in your experience, how long do they ever get over this ever, or do they ever overcome it? Or
Yeah, there are, like I said, like in earlier, there are some children that are really resilient. And it's not only just how they are nurtured after the trauma, but it's also in their genetics too, because genes can make us more resilient to stress and trauma, or um, stress and trauma can negatively impact those genes and make it to where, say we get skin rashes or hair loss, or we get heart palpitations, all these kinds of things, right? So it really depends on the child. But oftentimes, in psychology, the first 2 years of a child's life is the most critical for their development. And because they've done studies and they can look at a 2-year-old and see the personality, their health, all of these factors, and they can fast forward and almost predict what they will be like and act like when they're an adult. And there's something called the ACEs score. It's a 9-point scale, and it talks about 9 different experiences as a child. And if you have that experience, you get a point. And 4 or more points on the ACEs scale really points to children growing up to have health issues, mental health issues, shorter quality of life, all of these sorts of things.
wow. So this has been really interesting. Gregory, where do people find you?
So they can go to walkingmeadows.com. They can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, Walking Meadows. And I do have a parent support group on Facebook where people can ask questions. And that's called Parenting Support Group by Walking Meadows as well. So that's how they can find me, or they can just message me.
Oh, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. See, you can find the light of your entrepreneurship in the mess that you have created in life. So here, Gregory is taking what he likes, what he has learned, and then helping kids because they're the future. What are you going to do? I'm asking the listeners, what are you going to do with the gift that you have? And if you are looking for the gift that you are looking for and you haven't yet figured out what you're doing, go ahead and reach out to any one of our coaches. People that we showcase here are the ones that are helping people. You can contact me or you can contact anybody, and go ahead and reach out because this could change your life. Until we meet again next week, thank you, Gregory. We'll see you next week. And if you like what we share with you, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We are everywhere where podcasts can be found. Have a good week. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Niche Navigator. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. Your support really helps us keep bringing you amazing content. For more updates and behind-the-scenes glimpses, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and all our other social platforms. The links are in the description below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you there. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next week.